A very warm hello to everyone watching. I'm here again. My name is Priyanka Singh. So, in this session arranged by Active Plus, I'll be sharing my strategy with respect to WBCS prelims and also some associated topics, or you can say certain points which have often been like contentious and aspirants do want to know regarding those points. So, I've thought about progressing this session with respect to you can say six topics. The first topic that we'll be discussing today is knowing the exam. Now, I'll start the session by saying that just delving into the process of preparation or just beginning full-fledgedly into this examination mode, right, is not essential, first of all. Before understanding or before full-fledgedly going into this preparation mode or delving into the facts and learnings of this examination, it is essential that you understand the structure of this examination. Now, to understand the structure of the examination, it is again of essence that you do your own analysis. Now, everyone's perspective of comprehending topics or comprehending trends is different, right? Now, it is important to have that clarity about the subjects involved, have clarity and also understand what the nature of question, the pattern of the examination. Also, make yourself familiar before going into the process of preparation. Make yourself familiar with the topics. Make yourself familiar with the syllabus of prelims, mains, and understand what is the requirement of this examination. We often have the habit of just taking on, going through the internet, looking into the most probable book list, and start studying with it. But without having a proper strategy, without understanding what is the need of this examination, what you're required to do, it is of no use just going through the books aimlessly. Because the goal of this examination is to clear each of the examinations step by step. Now, West Bengal Civil Services examination is conducted in three stages, right? The first is the preliminary examination, which is MCQ based. Now, with respect to preliminary examination, we see the importance of trend analysis because in the last few years it has been seen that the cutoff is going towards the higher end. So just getting 100 or a 90 or 100 odd marks is not sufficient to clear the prelims. Now with this understanding, you have to make a pattern. Like what is the question, the demanding of the subjects? Like which section or which section is more scoring and which you can say which subject you're having problem with. Now with this, what will happen is you will understand what your priority will be while preparation. Once you have understood that what your strength and weaknesses is, while looking at the previous year questions or analyzing the question patterns of both prelims and mains, then you will be understanding the need of the examination. And once you do that, once you understand the syllabus, the process becomes much easier. Now, the preliminary and mains, understanding the syllabus is very important. Once you understand that, after that the preparation becomes much easier. So, after you've done preliminary and main, the third part of the examination is the personality test or the interview. Now, we'll go into the preliminary and the mains strategy building, but most people ask me about what happens in the preliminary test. Now, preliminary test again is of the third stage of this examination, right? Once you've qualified mains, you go into the preliminary stage, the interview stage. Over there, it is your ability to showcase your personality, highlight your strengths and weaknesses, what your potential is, right? How you build up your personality, how you're suitable for this examination or this career is tested. Now, the next topic that we'll be doing is, or the next is how do you start with this preparation? Now, starting with the preparation, again, as I mentioned here, that it might differ from, you can say individual to individual, depending on your pattern of studies, right? Now, starting with the preparation, I would suggest, first of all, before going into the sources and what needs to be done, there are few points that you need to remember while starting your preparation. Now, the first and foremost is building or creating a well-structured study routine or a study plan, whatever you call it. Now, this study plan is going to be the base, or you can say the backbone of your preparation strategy. Once you've done that, you have to understand the importance of setting goals. And these goals should be, remember, realistic, very doable, and sustainable, which you can, because the you can say the length of this, the duration of this examination is very long, right? So you have to sustain this study plan for a longer period of time. It cannot be that you study for, say, 12 hours, 14 odd hours in a day, and you will be lax with your study pattern or your study routine for the next 2 days. Then your efficiency is almost, you can say, the efficiency goes down. The importance of making this study plan or a study routine is to maintain your efficiency throughout this duration of the examination. Because maintaining that same motivation from the beginning or the day one of your preparation to the last day of your preparation when you qualify your examination or your interview is very important. Because going down even in one stage, relaxing even in one stage of the examination is going to bring down your marks. Now, as I said about this realistic setting of goals, it has to be done. For example, I'll just say how I did my planning or strategizing my goals. What I used to do is I used to set monthly. That in this particular month, for example, in January, I'm going to do these two subjects. It can be economy and polity. It can be anything that you think are comfortable with. I used to take these two subjects. Then, after monthly planning, you break it down to weeks. You take the syllabus, you understand what is the requirement of each subject, and then you break down the syllabus of each subject. And then you assign number of days required to complete each topic. Once you've done that, your task becomes much easier. Now, instead of looking at the whole vast syllabus at once, you're going to look at each topic at a time. That within these 4 days, I'm going to do this particular chapter. So, for example, these 4 days are assigned for doing fundamental rights. So, when you pick up that topic, right, in those 4 days, you not only complete your chapter on fundamental rights, you also go through the previous year questions. You also do solve, you can say, a few mocks or sectional tests on polity or fundamental rights. You take out the questions. You see what your strength and weaknesses is in that chapter. You mark it in the book itself or make notes out of it. And then go into the next chapter again. So, because the syllabus is so vast in this examination or any competitive examination and the stakes are so high, it is important to maintain maintain the routine and maintain your flow. Because even if you become lax for 1 or 2 months, you're lagging behind, right? And you have to understand the competition out there. It is not just about you studying a particular chapter and finishing it. You have to study it and perform better in it than most of them to clear the cutoff. Understand that, and then study. Now, once you've done that, once you have once you've broken down your syllabus into chunks, and you've decided that yes, these many days I'm going to allot for this particular topic, right? You start doing that. After those weekly goals, you set daily goals. So I used to have a diary where I used to mention the dates and what I'm going to do on that particular day, right? And then at the end of the day, you see that how much you've progressed. Initially, it can be that you do not completely you set all the goals, right? It's not possible. It may happen you make it around 50%, achieve 70% the next week, and ultimately you increase it, right? So this is the first part. So setting realistic goals, weekly, monthly, and ultimately daily also. After that, in your routine, you have to strike, you can say, a balance between learning this expansive and covering this expansive syllabus and also revising and practicing. So you have to strike a balance between this. Because what happens is if you go on just learning new stuff, if you go on learning new or adding new things to your, you can say, syllabus, right? What happens is you tend to forget what you've done a week prior to it or a month prior to it, right? So it is important that you go on revising also and also practice what you've done. Just going through the subject, going through that chapter is not going to make you understand that what you've done. right? What you've done is okay for, or is you met the requirements for the examination with respect to that chapter or not. You're not going to understand that, right? After that, now understand the subject clearly and comprehensively, right? Don't be in this rush to complete your goal that you've set. What happens is most of us, to complete a particular thing, a particular chapter, what we do is just because I have to tick that mark that I've done it for today, and I've studied something. What you go, we tend to rush into it. That, and then say that way, but we've done our part. Ask yes. But in the long run, you have to understand that it is just not about completing on time, but also understanding properly and remembering, right? Having that retention of the subject, understanding, comprehending that particular topic is also very important. Now, the next thing that you have to remember while beginning your preparation is you have to build a strong foundation, right? When you're building a foundation that is strong enough, right, you can build a very large structure on it. So begin with your basic knowledge that you have, right? For example, say history. Understand the basics properly. Understand with the basic knowledge of class 9, 10, or even 7, 8, 9, right? What you've done initially. You don't have to go into the depth of it. You don't have to understand the nuances of history or a particular chapter. Just understand the basic knowledge and then build on it, right? Once you have understood the basic knowledge, now what you can do is you can gain extra information and add on to that base, right? Now, strengthening your basic knowledge and then building upon it makes a strong foundation. Remember that. Also, conceptual understanding is very important. What we've seen in preliminary examination in the past few years is, for example, the general science based section, right? General science is we are not asking very theoretical, easy questions on science also. So it is important for gaining that 25 marks on general science. If you have to gain at least 15, you have to study or put in a lot of effort into that. And I would say if you are not into science, if you do not have a very strong science background, it's important to start with the basic knowledge. And then you can go into the depth of it. Because science say, for example, I think the question is by economy for that matter, right? Even in economy, what is happening, you just by knowing the basic knowledge, it is not, you can say, gaining you or fetching you marks. You have to have a conceptual clarity on the subject. Same with science. Only cramming the subject is not going to fetch you marks anymore. Or just going through the previous year questions, you're not going to get that 10 odd mark that you used to get earlier. Now, next, I would say, the third point that you have to keep in mind while preparing is, there has to be a synergy of learning and practice. I've done this in my previous videos also, while I took a video on, we did a session on mains preparation. Now, learning is one thing, right? You are getting that extra, you can say, extra thing on your syllabus, you are covering most of the topics, you're learning new things every day, right? You're adding to your list, picking those marks that yes, I've done this, I've done that. But most important part, you can say the practical or the most important aspect of this topic is understanding, not only understanding but also practicing. Now, how do you practice this, right? With the help of mock test. Now, the mock test, the importance of mock test, I cannot stress upon much how important it is, right? Understanding the importance of mock test not only by previous year questions, but also setting more questions. The more questions you solve, the more confident you become with respect to solving questions on your examination day, right? And not only doing that, but also revising those questions, revising those parts which which is going wrong for you, right? Or which is, you can test that, it is one side where I'm not getting or scoring enough marks. So revising is also important. While you keep on learning extra things or you keep gaining extra knowledge, please remember that you have to do, you can say, revision to a very large extent. Because the vast syllabus of this examination is such that you have to keep revising. To have that retention power is so important. Because ultimately, it is how much you're able to recall on the examination day that fetches you marks, right? If you're able to recall that, it might be that you've done that chapter twice, thrice, right? A number of times. But on the particular examination day, you're not able to recall it. And why does this happen? It happens because or due to the lack of revision and practice. So I would suggest that whenever you are making your strategies or when you are doing your daily goals or monthly goals, please try to incorporate mock test every day or at least 5 mock tests a week. Initially, if you are just beginning the preparation, start with the previous year questions. Each day solve for one particular year and just don't stop there. The next important part of or aspect of beginning with preparation is regularly assessing your performance. Not only assessing your performance with respect to mock tests, but also your recalling ability. That why is it you are not able to recall a particular topic even though you studied that particular thing. Understood? Now, once you've done that, once you've solved mock tests, remember when you're analyzing, right? Don't analyze with respect to only the factual part. Try to understand, try to gain that conceptual you can say the concept behind it. Have a conceptual clarity with respect to that particular question. Okay. Now that particular question can be of just a factual question or can be of you can say a particular question that is new to you. Well, what you can do is you can just mark down that question. You can mark down or make a different notebook where you write down the question that is going wrong, right? Or where you get negative marks. Make a copy or make a notebook out of those questions itself. And just before the examination, go into solving. Just go through it. Go through the copy and keep revising it. Okay? Now, the next topic that we have is this is, I think, one of the most important distinctions that you have to understand. The difference between studying and preparing. Now, we often tend to mix both of them together, right? We often tend to understand that studying is equal to preparing for an examination. Just because you're going through with Lakshmikant, going through Lakshmikant once, twice, it does not mean preparation only, right? Studying, what is studying? Studying is only, it refers to, you can say, learning the knowledge competencies, right? Learning the knowledge competencies that are given in a particular syllabus or a curriculum. Now, contrastingly, remember, preparation for an examination, right? Preparation of an examination is putting that knowledge in part where it is required or where in the particular component of the examination it is required in the way it is asked. So, for example, you've studied Article 21 of the fundamental rights. You studied what is Article 21, what it suggests, right? But your examination, for example, in preliminary, they are not going to ask you to define Article 21, right? So, for example, you get a question that right of bail, the right to bail of an accused or right to bail is what kind of fundamental right, right? If you study fundamental rights, Article 21, it suggests, right? It is implied that right to bail comes from Article or stems out of Article 21. So this is the basic difference between studying and preparing for an examination. So you have to understand the format of the examination, you have to understand the demand of the examination, and you have to understand that how does this particular knowledge has to be implied in the different subsets of the examination. So same chapter on, you can say ancient history, right? Gupta period. Same topic can be asked in very different ways in preliminary and mains. The knowledge remains the same, only how you're implying that particular knowledge in your examination is preparation of an examination. So remember, just sitting down with a book, right? And just as I mentioned here, that just reading books does not mean you're preparing for the examination, right? It merely means that you're studying the book, that you go into the knowledge that is put in the book. Now, while you're preparing, a large part of this preparation of an exam also involves use of practice of each exam component. For example, in this case, preliminary, mains, and interview. Each component in a simulated environment. Now, what does that mean? It means giving ample number of mock tests. Now, this simulated environment, it has. Why is it required? Why are these mock tests required? They're required to perfect your. They're required to perfect your. You can say performance. They are required so that in order to give you that confidence, right? It is nothing but a confidence building measure. What you've studied, if it is going to reflect on your paper, right? If you've studied properly, if you prepared the chapter properly in all its aspect, right? You've not just merely studied the chapter, but you've done it holistically in all its aspect. It's going to reflect. Now, another aspect of you can say preparation of examination also encompasses all kind of skills that are required, right? And I think this is most important part of any examination. Like you've studied, but keeping your nerves, right? Then prioritizing everything, right? I mean that's going in your life. Then having that motivation, the focus, the determination, right? The perseverance that is required to clear this examination. Also, time management. And ultimately, it comes down to life management. How you are juggling through all of this whilst preparing for your examination, that is, in true terms, the preparation of an examination. How you understand that, how you refer to each of these things in your daily examination, how you fit in these components in your daily routine, that is preparation of an examination. Just sitting down with a book alone is not preparation, preparing for an examination. Now, preparation cannot be your life. It has to be a part of your life, correct? So you have to manage your life around this examination. For those couple of years that you're preparing for your examination, this examination has to take the primary focus of your life. And your life revolves around it, and also those around you. Their life also starts revolving around this examination because you are preparing. Right? So you have to understand how to manage these kind of things. Along with completing your syllabus on time, revising, practicing ample amount of mock tests, right? Now the next topic that we have in hand is the book list. Now I've discussed this earlier also, and I think all of us who've started at least some bit of preparation know the basic books that are required, right? Now, before I go into the book list, I would just suggest that understand that only reading book is not going to fetch you marks in the long run, because as year by year the amount of you can say competition is starting, the stakes are becoming too high, right? Only cramming the knowledge present in the books or your study materials is not enough. You have to develop your own perspective. You have to inquire into topics on your own. You have to have that, you can say, that inquisitive mind where you go in depth of understanding that why a certain thing is happening in a certain way. Just cramming a few things, obviously, few facts you have to cram, setting that apart. The concepts needs to be clear in your mind. That why a certain particular thing is happening. You need to know the background of it to understand the whole topic in depth and analyze for yourself. Don't depend on the analysis made by others on a particular topic. You read both the points, 2 and 4, and then make your own point, make your own analysis, and understand what is the requirement or what is needed, and accordingly take a stance. Now I'll go topic wise, right? Now English composition in preliminary, I did not take any separate book as I think a standard class 10, 11 English book is enough. And you have to go through the previous year questions, especially antonyms, synonyms, make a list out of it, phrases, right? Keep a list out of it. Wherever you come across any particular new word, look into its synonym and antonyms, both of them. Make a list, jot down the important words, their meanings, phrases, right? Those kind of things. Then next part is general English, general science. Now in general science, since I have a science background, I did not have to work too hard for understanding general science, but also for ones who do not have a very, you can say, strong background in science, and since the questions are quite tricky nowadays with respect to science, I suggest go through class 9, 10 books first, and then go into studying a certain manual. For example, I studied WBCS manual by Nitin Singh sir, and That book is very holistic, very well done, and also there's a book of general knowledge by Lucid. In over there, the general knowledge section as well as the computer section is very well written, and I think for beginners it is, I think, enough if you complete those 3 sections or 4 sections out of 2. They separate biology, physics, and chemistry section, and along with it, you should also complete the computer section, right? Because nowadays we often get questions out of computer, basic computer science. Now, current events follow, I think, any one particular monthly of any particular active class has its own monthly magazines that comes out, right, for current events. Any current event that you're following, I think it will cover major part of it. Also, I think you should keep your own account. Keep your own notebook for it, for understanding what the current trends are, current events that are happening, right? Then next is, and also I would suggest that make notes of the prizes that have been given, the prizes, titles, nobles, right? Keep a note of it, the awards. Then history of India. I think history is one section in preliminary that is going to give you the maximum, you can say, output, right? History of India is one section, and Indian national movement is another section. Now, for Indian national movement, Spectrum, the book Spectrum by Rajiv Ahir is more than enough. I think that's the only book that I've studied. And for ancient and medieval, it is important. Now, when you're studying ancient and medieval history, I think the best way to study and also retain that in your mind is by understanding the timeline, right? You understand from where exactly ancient history is starting. For example, in India, where is it starting? Then chronology, understand the chronology. Then from where we are shifting to medieval. And once medieval is starting, how we are progressing to medieval, again, chronology is important. Once you understand the timeline, how after one dynasty the another is coming, which is breaking up into give how many, for example, how many empires or dynasties, right? Understanding that, I think that way if you study ancient and medieval, it becomes much easier also to understand. And once you understand the chronology, it becomes easier to recall also. Because nowadays most of the question is based on this, that based on chronology, right? Who were the contemporary dynasties, or which dynasty came after which one? Those kind of questions. Then the book, again, the book that I followed over here is NCRT, and also I think Nitin Singhania's WBCS manual has a very in-depth, comprehensive analysis. Also, Poonam Dalal Dahiya, there's a book by Poonam Dalal Dahiya, but it covers both. Poonam Dalal Dahiya, the thing is, if you study that book, it covers both prelims and mains, right? It covers, if that one book covers both prelims and mains, keep that in mind. Then Geography of India with special reference to West Bengal, right? Now, Geography of India, I did class 11 and 12 NCRT, some map works, and for again for West Bengal, special emphasis on West Bengal is given. Again, Nitin Singhania WBCS manual and geography book by Kartik Chandra Mandal is very good. Again, next is Indian polity and economy. Now, Indian polity and economy, I think for the ones who've not begun with economy till now, you should begin with economy first, because the questions no more are very static based. They are mostly conceptual clarity is required for understanding solving the economic questions. Also, very dynamic questions are asked. And economy you can Indian economy by Ramesh Singh is a good book. Also NCRT, it is, the basics are very well explained in NCRT of class 11 and 12. And Indian economy by Lakshmikant is, I think everyone follows that book because that is how good that book is. Now, general mental ability. This particular section is gaining much importance now, right? Because initially they used to ask basic class 10 maths questions, but it is no more the case. The questions are becoming very difficult, not very difficult, at least they are becoming moderate from what they used to ask previously. So it requires special attention now. Also, this paper becomes very, you can say, a deciding factor in mains. So it is important that you start your preparation with mathematics from now on itself, right? Because the questions are no more very easy level questions. If you've gone through the questions on preliminary, the last preliminary that was held, the questions were quite moderate or difficult levels, right? So go through those first and start with the preparation of mathematics now itself. Now the next topic, okay, the next topic that we're going to take up is managing time for students and working aspirants, right? It is one topic or one point that I think a lot of people face or go through. Now, I would suggest that for students and working professionals, right? When you're preparing for this examination, I know how difficult it becomes managing both of these together. The point I think you should keep in mind is organizing everything, right? Keep everything organized. Now, once you have everything organized, you understand what is required. You don't waste too much of time understanding or solving or going through solving where you have to put in time. Once everything is organized, it becomes much easier to understand and reflect that where your time has to go, or how much time you need to give to a certain topic or a certain chapter or a certain subject for that matter. Now, keep your sources very limited, right? Because as it is, you have less amount of time as compared to others, right? So try to have a very compact study routine, right? Now, when you're studying, remember that you're giving your 100% while you're studying. Because as you have less time, the amount of time that you're giving it, right, make the most out of it. Now, maximizing your score can only happen if you are 100% into the subject. In those 2 or 3 hours that you are taking on a particular subject, remember to not be distracted too much by what is happening. And as it is, okay. Now keep revising. Next topic that you will have to remember is that you have to keep revising and keep giving mocks. Now take that particular time out to solve at least 2 or 3 mocks in a week. It can be during your commute time. It can be early in the morning before you go off to college or work, right? But take that time out to give mocks. Because if you do not give mocks, you're not able to understand or gauge your performance. Thank you. Okay. Now, you have to squeeze in time out, right? They are the same amount of 24 hours for everyone. So you need to take that time out, to squeeze in time out here and there. Right? It can be 15 minutes break, it can be a half an hour break during your work time, where you can solve at least 20 questions at a time. Now, even solving 20 questions and analyzing it in a day is a long number of, it's a large number of questions in the long run. So don't be disheartened at the very beginning, at the very outset, that you have less amount of time. It does not matter that you're studying for, you can say, only 4 hours a day. If you're making the most out of those 4 hours a day, if you're making or maximizing your potential in that 4 hours, it is enough. Right? It is never important to sit for 8 hours a day with book and just the efficiency as it is, it decreases with the more time you put in. Right? You start your mind or your thoughts go haywire in the beginning. Now, when you have less time, you have ample scope of focusing on it. So keep revising and give mocks. And especially it becomes very important for the working aspirants or the students to create a particular study schedule. Right? Break down the whole subject, right, into small manageable chunks. What I mean by manageable is make sure that when you squeeze out that half an hour, right, you do 5 pages of a particular chapter. Because you might not have the time to complete the whole chapter in a day. So what you do is you break it down. And I'm going to do this particular in this 20 minutes or half an hour that I get out of there. I'm going to complete 4 or 5 pages in that. Right? So that is how you squeeze in time. Now, make sure you set goals that where in this particular specific time I'm going to do this particular thing. And at the end of the day, you assess yourself and then plan for the next day accordingly. Okay? Now, next is prioritizing your work and balancing it with your exam preparation. Right? Now, when you're doing this, understand that it becomes very important that you are clear in your mind. that what your uh, long-term goal is. To understand truly and clearly that what you're set out to do. That that the short-term goal and the long-term goal, right? So don't get disheartened during the process. Stay motivated and keep your study mix, keep your study schedule like different on different days, right? Then it does not become very monotonous. So what you do is you study a week, for a week you study history. The next week you can take on a subject that you really like, and then you can just intermix between them. And then remember to most important point is since you are already running low on time, right? So it is important that you minimize or remove your distractions. So I know it becomes very difficult to totally eliminate those distractions, but still try to minimize it as much as possible because it is going to not only take up your time but also take up your mental space, right? It is important that you are while you're studying you have a clear mind. Also, while you're studying, for example, on a Sunday or a Saturday or a Sunday, when you are off, when you're getting it off, try to make the full out of it, right? Try to do as much as possible on those particular days. Take small breaks in between, and try to maximize your potential during those particular days. Then, I think it is important that during the whole process, since you are doing so many things, juggling so many things at the same time, it is important to get enough rest sleeping for ample amount of time so that you do not get strained out in a few weeks. It is important since it is you're going to keep it up for a long period of time. It is important that you continue doing this, and for that you have to remain healthy. Okay, so sleep enough time, right? A proper sleep is required. Also, remember that you have to stay organized in the whole process. During this whole process, if you stay organized, it makes your task much easier, right? The last topic that we'll be taking up for today is how do you integrate the study or the syllabus of prelims and mains and study it as one. Now, remember, in a way, the syllabus of preliminary is nothing but a subset of the syllabus of mains. The only difference being the depth, expanse, and the diversity of questions that are being asked. Now, having said that, remember the pattern of the question, understanding the pattern is also important. So, the chapter remains the same. Essentially, the syllabus is comprising of mostly and equal. You can say the syllabus is equal for for the most part. So, for example, polity, when you are taking a polity, the chapters remain same for both preliminary and mains. But the way you are going to take on, right, the studying or the preparing a particular chapter for prelims and mains is going to be different. So what I suggest is how you start is you study the whole chapter once, right? Then go into previous year questions first for prelims, then try to solve the questions. If you're able to solve the questions for prelims, right, do a second reading of the chapter. After that, look into the question of mains. Now, while you're taking on the syllabus of the questions of mains, now try to see how much you're going to get or mark yourself on it. But how much are you scoring on that? So once you've done that, that particular chapter you've done for both prelims and mains. That particular chapter is ready for both prelims and mains. Then what happens simultaneously if you're studying both for prelims and mains, your preparation becomes very solid, right? Now, in spite of the expansive syllabus and the depth that is required to clear this examination, to get that peak performance out of yourself, to reach your full potential, remember again it is of utmost importance that you keep revising. Keep your you can say the questions, the amount of books that you're going through compact. Don't increase your sources too much. Keep it compact and try to solve as many previous year questions, mocks as you can. Now, understanding the trend of both prelims and mains is important at the very beginning because once the preliminary result is out, you don't have enough time at hand for your mains, preparation of mains. You have to study optional also. You have to understand the language paper also. So it is important that at least the overlapping areas of the subject you've done, right? Once you've done that, it is important again to analyze yourself on that particular chapter. During the whole process of this preparation, what I would suggest before ending my session is, before the way you studied, right? The way you're studying. More than that, what is important is how well settled the thought of clearing this examination is in your mind. Because if that is done, nothing really can stop you, right? A few setbacks can be there, and it will be there in the whole process, right? So you should not get very disheartened by that, and keep going on while in your mind that you have to clear this examination. Keep it in mind that you have to make it through, right? And since the competition is too high, you cannot fall back. You cannot really be lax with your preparation. You cannot really be very casual with your preparations. So I hope that you all understand the intensity of preparation that is required to clear this examination. And I hope that you begin with the preparation with a very fresh mind and continue doing so by staying motivated. And I'm hopeful that this session has had some impact and had made and I have made some contribution in some way in your preparation strategy. So thank you all of you for joining in. And thank you Aptic Plus for giving me this platform. And I hope to see you all soon again. Thank you.